Hey, gals, guys, and otherwise. We're doing a thing.
We are.
We're doing the thing you asked us to do. The thing.
I was very flattered that y'all wanted to see me do my thing.
Yeah. And I'm gonna go ahead and tell myself that that no one really voted for Halo Tops because you knew it was coming anyway and you didn't want to waste your vote. To which I say, congrats, there's a lot more Halo Tops coming regardless. But yeah, no, I'm very excited we get to do this one. What are we doing today?
Today, I will show you the basics of some comic lettering.
I feel like I'm so much quieter than you, but also it's hard to tell with my monitor.
Well, that's good because I'm the one that's saying the important stuff.
Okay, I didn't know this was a mean stream.
No.
So yeah, here I'm gonna fade out the theme music, and we're just gonna have some chill music playing in the background that only I can hear and Haley cannot.
Oh, it's so soothing. It looks like it's people dancing.
Oh, they can't see that.
I know. I'm looking at the.
So no one's getting to experience anything else that anyone else is experiencing except for me. So we're gonna go ahead and go to the. Well, you know, let's keep it on this pretty thumbnail while we talk. We're gonna learn how to comic letter.
We're gonna learn how to comic.
Learn how to comic.
Comics lettering is it's a subtle art, as they say. No, I mean it is, but it's basically graphic design light. Most people who do it for a living and professionally are self-taught, including myself. There's not really any like courses you can take or anything. It's all just online, basically, and you learn by trial and error. Pretty much everyone does. And I learn new things about lettering every single day, and it's something that I really, really enjoy. For the absolute layman, comics lettering involves.
What did you just call me?
Comics lettering involves doing the speech bubbles, as they say, or as in the industry we call them word balloons. The word balloons and text, dialogue, any sort of sound effects. Usually, some artists will do their own sound effects, but that's usually the letterer does sound effects as well.
Yeah, so so for you, it's ranged from like you've done translated books where you're adding lettering to existing balloons, and then sometimes you're also creating the balloons, you're creating all the sound effects and all this stuff, so it can be a pretty wide range of complications, right?
Yeah, and well, I mean 95% of the time, probably more like 96 or 8.
It's actually 97.
Yeah. Okay. Most of the time, the letterer is going to have creative freedom over the existing balloons, the text, the font, everything having to do with words in a comic. But for some reason, there's this, and I don't know whether it's European or just French, but I've worked on some French translated to English, obviously, books that originally published in French, where the balloons, not the text, but the balloons themselves are embedded into the base art.
Right.
So when I started working on the book, the graphic novel is called Once Upon a Time in France, and yeah, when I started working on it, I was like, you basically can't move around any of or move around anything of the existing balloons. And when you're doing a French to English translation, or anything to English translation, or anything to anything translation, the dialogue is not always going to end up the exact same, size and length and number of characters as the original, in the original language. So it can get complicated, and it doesn't nearly look as good as if I had complete control over the size and shape and composition positioning of the balloons themselves.
Well, let's get people on the path to doing their own comics translations. With the basics here, I'm gonna switch over to desktop view. I'm gonna hand the mouse over to Haley, and Haley, we're as a bit of a challenge. I figured we'd pick something that everyone was sort of familiar with already. If not, go look up Superhuman by Jonathan O. Roselyon and Stephen Morrow, and Boy
Who's
Roland.
that? Oh, by who? I haven't heard of him.
Stephen Morrow, he's an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, I gotta email him back about a future Patreon project.
Secrets.
But immediately looked over the desktop to see if those secrets were readily apparent. But we're going to be just doing a pretty simple page of lettering for the 10th page of Superhuman, which was a free short comic that I did back in the day. And actually, your cousin David, aka Boy Roland, did the lettering for it, and he was a first-time letterer, so I'm sure that it is largely like not by the book, I'd guess. Like, he sort of did his own intuitive take on lettering, which I loved, but I thought it'd be cool to take that as a jumping off point to do something a little more formal.
Yes. Dave is an amazing artist, and he did a great job lettering Superhuman. There are just a few things here and there that we can clean up a little.
All right, well, let's look at them.
All right.
Let's look at the
So
page.
let's open up our Adobe Illustrator. Illustrator is the main program that letterers use. Some use Photoshop, some use InDesign. I've used InDesign for certain projects. But Photoshop and InDesign they don't have a lot of the just artistic nuances almost with the tools that are available. So I prefer Illustrator by far. Now let's drag over the unlettered version of page 10 of Superhuman over here. Here we go.
That's Stephen Morrow's art there. He left plenty of negative space for the balloons to go. And I love it. I love this book.
Very
Next
pretty.
to last page, we will get into some, I don't know, slight spoilers, I guess. Not really. Feel free to go read the book. It'll take, 5 minutes. But and let's see what Dave put together for
All right.
us.
So this was Dave's take on the lettering. I think. So yeah. To begin, it looks like he also hand lettered the dialogue here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he did like a totally like readable, job of this. I think for the voiceover here, that's like pretty top notch. Like,
For the any Horns and Wings people in the chat, obviously the handwritten voiceover was inspired by Saga. So, but we had to do that little. You'll notice with the background on them, we had to add our own little like white coloring behind some of it, so that you could actually read it. Because one thing that Saga is, believe it or not, better at than something I did, it's that they make sure they're using a consistent dark or light tone throughout, like where the voiceover needs to go, or else it'll blend in. The voiceover will blend in. So anytime you're seeing voiceover that's handwritten in Saga, it's against like a solid background where you can get a nice contrasting color. And we did not do that, so we had to add these little like blurry, cloudy things behind the voiceover, which we might do again today.
yeah, that's one of the things that comes up, like, in almost every project that I do is it's really hard to consider all aspects of the comic making process in the art stages, because there's just so many little things when it comes to lettering that is pretty much a troubleshooting process, problem solving throughout. I know that's one of the things that's exciting about it. But yeah, so let's focus on the dialogue for now. So, do you have something to say?
I was just gonna say, just from my, and I'm further away from the screen right now, but I will say that, like, if I do think there is a bit of a weakness to Dave's lettering, it's the I think we probably should have gone with a sort of an actual font instead of having him do the hand lettering for the dialogue as well as the voiceover. Just because that can definitely be a lot harder to read, and also it adds a certain quality to it. Almost feels like you ever see those like Gonzo illustrations, the like Fear and Loathing illustrations and stuff, where it's
No, I don't know what
there's very much Dave's style, and which I love, because it's this sort of scratchy style that was exactly what I was looking for the narration. But we probably should have done something a little more traditional for the dialogue, I think.
Yeah, because they say, there's a saying that lettering should be invisible, which is not exactly what you want to go for, but it's the sentiment is there. It's, you want it to be as readable as possible and still fit in with the style of the comic itself.
Not distracting.
Yeah, not distracting. And some people, some letterers consider it like they want it to seem like the artist did the lettering as well, because
Right.
that you want that cohesion artistically. But yeah, so here we have some, pretty standard dialogue balloons with the white background and the black stroke around the balloons here. But one thing is, I would say that we definitely want a little bit more space between the edges of the text here and the edge of the balloon.
So you mean like the next panel's balloon?
Yes, and this is another thing. Yeah, when you go from this, it's very, very kind of cramped, and this where there's a lot more room. This is where I would personally move that amazing down onto the next.
Why don't you go ahead and make that a bit bigger on the screen, so that while we're talking about it, so people can
sure
see. I guess just make it full screen, the image. There we go. So people don't have to squint too much.
Right.
Yeah, and especially I'm definitely seeing the discrepancy in the spacing in that first panel's balloon, where it's very cramped, but then there's a lot of space on the bottom. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's room for improvement here. Again, I asked an artist to do a lettering gig, and I think he largely nailed it.
Oh yeah.
But I don't expect it to be the most polished thing ever made.
Yeah, so, and the only other thing here, and we'll get into it when we make our own balloons here, is that the tails here going to the person who's talking, the idea is that you want the tail to seem like it's emerging from the middle of the balloon.
Mhm.
So if this looks a little off, it looks a little bit kind of like off kilter, then that's why. Is that, this, you could either, move this, kind of like tilt it a little bit so it's coming from over here, or you could, kind of curve the tail so it's kind of going this way, so it kind of has that arc into the middle of the balloon there.
Isn't it also that it's supposed to be aiming towards the mouth too of the character speaking generally?
Yes, I mean that's
So,
the aim, and definitely here it's possible. It's not always totally possible, depending on the composition of the
Right.
where where each character is in the panel, etc. But yeah, it's always a good thing to aim for.
Cool.
Okay,
Do we feel comfortable with diving into it?
let's do it.
All right. So what is your first step?
So my first step, definitely. So we have the page open.
Mhm.
First, we want to save and be saving as much as possible
All
in this
Go ahead
this
and
process.
save it to desktop then.
Okay,
It's already on there.
of course it is. Okay, so what are we calling it? Super human.
Perfect.
No,
Page
super Haley.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Oh, we're just calling it. Okay.
Yes.
Your organizational method is everything is a pun of your
Yes.
name. Perfect.
Okay. Now we are saved.
Are there any like RGB or settings like that we need to worry about right from the top, or is that not worth getting into for the intros thing?
It's not worth getting into right now. It's
future live stream.
yes, yeah.
Why don't we make that full screen too, so
Yeah.
people aren't squinting on their phones. All right. So what's next?
All right. So,
Or-
now
Sorry to interrupt, but because I know for me it's always easier to learn if I just am given like just a broad overview of the steps or the overall thing. So if you could give us just like a broad, like, is it balloons then text?
well, don't worry. I'm not starting the art yet. I'm
Okay.
starting my layers.
Okay.
So what happens now is it's always good to have your text, your balloons, your sound effects, which we don't have any on this page, so we won't make a layer for that, and the art itself on each on a different layer.
Right.
So let's make some more layers here. I don't know why the second one always ends up red, just like the first. So I'm just gonna go ahead and toss that red layer. So I like to color code things. So yeah, this is gonna be, first of all, we'll want to just lock that art layer because we're not gonna want it to be moving around.
Okay.
And with Illustrator, once there's more items on the screen, we'll be able to just kind of click and drag if we need to, if we need to relocate it, like it all at the same time, and that we don't want the art moving with it. All right, so let's make this text, and this will be balloons. Although we do want the balloons below the text.
Right.
All right, and we can just call it one art.
Wow,
All right.
I didn't know you decided what art is. Sure. You
Art
heard it here,
or not
Phil.
art.
Heard it. That's the definitive.
Mhm.
Comics or art.
All right, and disclaimer, by the way, which I mean, I'm sure it's self-explanatory by saying that most letterers are self-taught, and so am I. Again, I'm learning new, like, easier and better ways to do things with lettering pretty much every day, at least every week. So, as much as I have a few years of experience under my belt, these might not be the best ways to do everything. So some of them might be, but if there's there's a lot of resources out there, and I'll go through how I learned lettering as well. Yeah, don't take it as gospel. If you want to fool around with some of the tools, and figure out your own ways of doing things, you should.
These are the people that watch me flounder around in After Effects for hours on end, having no idea what I'm doing and doing everything the dumbest way possible. So this is a as close to an expert as we're gonna get, regardless.
All right. So first, what we want to do is go ahead and go over to our script.
Hey.
So this is where we copy and paste our dialogue into the into the comic page. What I like to do is to take first, not necessarily the first kind of, because right here is like, stop, I'm alive. there's not really a lot to work with here when we're trying to like figure out like what font we want to use, and I like to have a lot, a little bit more dialogue to work with when we're doing our preliminary text work, our typography work, whatever. So here I'm just gonna copy and paste this little bit first.
And something that I just noticed, which, this is probably on me, and I'm sure I could organize this better. We'll have to go through how I should write the script to make it easier for letterers to read. But that stop I'm alive, I put a break there in the lines because I intended it to be two
now,
balloons.
I read that as 2 balloons.
Okay.
So
I am right. And everyone else
you
is
are
wrong.
right, I think.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, as long as everyone else is wrong and I'm the correct one, then we're good. But yeah, so that's another improvement we can make here.
All right, so we're gonna go over to the T, which is text, and go on our text layer. It's gonna be over here, right? I think.
Which part?
It's in panel 2.
Oh, you're doing the panel 2 one? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just to start out. Okay.
And we're done.
And we're done. That's it.
That's how you do it.
Okay. So now, what we need to do is go over to our properties tab. Our character is right over here. This is where we're our sweet spot for text. Now I've already chosen a font for this, which it's called Invulnerable.
Appropriate.
And it is a font available on blambot.com.
This is the paid font,
here.
Right?
Yes, is a paid font. This is Blambot. I'm gonna be going back and forth between my links. So yeah, this is Blambot. They have a lot of fonts and resources for letterers and comic creators in general. The nice thing is that it offers a lot of a number of fonts for independent creators. So if you're making a comic that you're going to basically finance and release yourself, and not go to a huge big publisher, then you can use these fonts for free. And so yeah, there's this one that's like a sound effect font. Anime Ace, Literomatic are both good dialogue fonts. And then there's pages and pages and pages of paid fonts, and they're really not that expensive. Considering like
I've seen fonts that are like $200.
Oh yeah.
And stuff.
So here we have Invulnerable. That's the one that I'm going to be using. This one's $40 for. I mean, 1 to 5 seats. I haven't explored the intricacies of the licenses, but for I assume this is people using it.
Oh, that adds up.
But yeah, so yeah, $40. And the great thing about this font, which I'll show you when I start getting into it, is that there are variations on a bunch of different letters. So here. So here you can see in this beginnings, these are 3 different ends. So it gives a little bit more of a hand-drawn kind of texture and feel, which is, I think, really charming. Yeah, and then there's on Blambot also there's some, there's the comic script basics. There's a few, different kind of.
Wait, what was the comic script basics? Is that like how to write a script? What is?
Oh, it's for.
Oh, are they saying how to format a script?
It looks like it.
That's weird because comic scripts don't actually have a determined format. So, that's interesting that they've put this flag in the dirt here of how you must. But I'm sure
it's not how you must. It's just a good, readable and just cohesive way of doing it, I guess.
All right.
And then we have there's some oops. There's some comic lettering tips on here that are awesome. This is a huge resource that I used to learn at the beginning. And yeah, so let's go back and start our balloon here. Okay, so right now there's two things. It is not centered, so you want to center it. And there's much too much line spacing between the lines.
Right.
So let's go ahead and
right.
Yes, sorry. Some people like a little, closer together, but you can.
I would imagine it depends on the font, right?
Yeah,
like
it
if they're
depends on the
drop down letters, which aren't, since this is all caps, you can probably have it a bit closer.
Yes, yeah, of course, yeah. If it's a
lowercase.
Yeah, or sentence case.
Right.
All right. So what I'm gonna do now is just to kind of put it into a shape, vague shape of a
balloon.
Of a balloon
That's a useful word to know.
Not always it's not always a it's not always a perfect circle. It's often not. So.
Right.
Or an ellipsis is or ellipse, not ellipsis.
Right. Because it's elliptical.
Oh my god. Now I'm on a rectangle tool. Okay. Sometimes this takes, a bit of finagling.
Yeah. This is a chill process stream where we just hang out for a bit and do some experimenting.
Maybe. That's not bad.
That's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Since we're putting in 2 balloons.
So the idea is to have the top and bottom lines having about the same amount of characters for some symmetricality's sake. So right here it's not ideal, but I think that's about as good as we're gonna get.
All right.
And a trick, we don't really need it here, but there's a trick where if there's kind of like here it's a little bit asymmetrical from top to bottom, because there's like ideally this line would be the same width as this line, right, because they're in the middle. But here there's a little trick that you can do with the actual width of the text itself and the line itself. Usually you can go about to like 95 or 96% width.
Oh, so you're changing the actual width of the letters. That's
the width of the letters, and it won't.
So it's not just the kerning.
Yes, yeah. Kerning is the space between the letters.
We all know that.
All right, let's try 96%. That looks a little better.
All right. Interesting.
One sec.
Intermission. I'm singing the song that Haley can't hear, so I sound like a crazy person.
You're always a crazy person, babe.
I would never sing a song that you couldn't hear that is just in my head. I don't do that 24 hours a day at all.
One thing One thing that I learned recently, actually, is this trick with the kerning. See, it's on auto right now. A font like this that's specifically meant for comics is usually already gonna have a pretty tight kerning, because it's, you know, made by somebody who knows what they're doing. But not all fonts will have this kind of preciseness. So we go over here. If we go optical instead of auto, it changes up the kerning slightly, so that it's just a little bit more uniform. So here actually it fixed. I'm gonna go in and look at this.
I saw the opposite changed a bit.
So if we go back to auto here, I'd say there's a little bit more space between the H and the E than the T and the H. If we go back to optical, I don't know. I actually, sometimes it looks different when you're out here than in here, but that didn't change too much. But
I noticed
it's a little more
the word opposite changed a bit.
Let's go back to So I don't know. I think it helps just a little bit.
Yeah. Which when every little bit counts with lettering, trying to fit something into a panel seems like a good thing to know. All right, what do we got next?
All right. So, we might as well just continue and do this balloon, and then we'll go and do the rest of them, just to complete the process from start to finish. All right. So let's go to, I'm gonna go to balloons and go over to this ellipse tool. And we just click and drag. And we're done!
There we go.
Perfect. Alright. So we want to make our background white, which is not always the case. Sometimes I like to mess around with with a nice off-white.
Feel free to take any sort of liberties here.
That's a little yellow, but
the problem is we have the pure white panels.
Yes. So I mean, here it doesn't.
Gutters, rather.
It doesn't, match up too well. So I'm gonna go back to white, but I like mixing it up sometimes too.
It's my favorite. What's the lady the rehab song lady?
Amy Winehouse.
That's my favorite Amy Winehouse album. Is Back to White.
Okay. All right. So we want to throw a stroke on this bad boy.
So you just did a what tool did you use to make the circle?
The ellipse tool.
Okay, and then you just made the circle.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I said that.
All right. Well, I was thinking of a really good joke.
Yeah,
so.
I'm sure you were. What was it again?
I don't remember.
All right. So here it just gives it a nice kind of uniform black border.
Mm-hmm.
I've recently begun kind of exploring new ways to do borders. So we'll go into, this is just a little thing that I've been doing. We'll go into the brushes area and go into the brush library, artistic, calligraphic. And there's all these kinds of different brushes that will change up the stroke around here, and also
cool.
If you're using the brush tool, obviously the paintbrush tool, it will use whatever you've chosen to do that.
So
as
what
well.
does some of this look like?
So here we go. That one's gonna give it a little bit of
interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, each one has its own little kind of flair.
Perfect. There we go.
Perfect.
Let's get it as close to the CBS logo as possible.
I really like this kind of little subtle,
Yeah.
like one of these or one of these.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it really fits in this. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm not sure. It depends on. I think since we're going a bit more, that's probably too much. But I think since we're going a bit more formal with the word balloons, maybe not anything too crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a cool option.
All right. Let's just go back to our original.
There we go.
Now where did it go? No.
It's lost forever.
What? Okay. Basic. There we go.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, that's just a little thing you can explore.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we kind of have an issue, and this is why you want that kind of symmetry.
Mm-hmm.
Is because there's a lot more space down here than
Mm-hmm.
anywhere else. So in that case, I like to make it more of kind of less rounded and more of kind of like a going into rectangular
Oblong.
territory. Oblong territory. It's a good band name.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So here, if we go over to the direct selection tool, this is my best friend, direct selection tool. We can, there are these 4 little anchors attached to the ellipsis.
Mm-hmm.
If you click on those, these little lines appear. You can click on the handles here and basically do whatever you want with the shape. So
Yeah.
perfect, right?
We're done.
Now, if you, without pressing any other keys or anything, if you just, hold this handle, it can get a little bit, easy to lose its kind of shape here. You can end up, going a little wonky. Which, I mean, sometimes some letterers like to do that with their balloons, kind of have them a little bit off kilter. But if you want to keep it symmetrical, you can hold down the shift key, and no matter what you do, or well, if you go crazy with it, it's gonna. But if you,
so
it's
it,
way
keeps
easier
it
to keep it even.
Still, the like corners of it.
Yep.
Okay.
So
That's
let's
cool.
try this out. Just do a little bit of a shape like this.
Boxier.
A little boxier, and see what it looks like and what we can do.
That's
Alright.
looking more symmetrical.
And now we can actually, let's see, just kind of clean that up a little bit. It's kind of inevitable in this case that that the bottom text is going to be a little bit closer to the edges of the panel here and here.
Right, because it's either
then-
that or being too far from the bottom.
Yes, so you kind of have to split the difference. There's going to be a little bit, less space up here, a little bit more space down here, a negative space in the balloon, a little bit closer to the edges. It's just, how it's going to shake out.
Right.
But, for the most part, let's move this over just a little bit.
Which that's one thing that I've noticed helping you out when I can with stuff like this is how much of it is just based on feel instead of I so badly want it to just be like, okay, automatically make me a balloon based on the text I've input and automatically format it and stuff. I want to be able to just like drag a square and it just makes the whole thing for me. But it's crazy how much of it where even like you use like a centering whatever, like if you know that there's as much space on the top or the bottom, it's still, if it doesn't look right or if it doesn't feel right, then you still have to change it up and do weird stuff with it.
And then with that in particular, that's why it's always good to have another file open. One sec.
Taking a drink and coughing. You heard that though? That was a little loud. Setting that water down, slurping up the water.
Oh my god. Okay.
There we go.
So let's open up a new document here.
Mhm.
And this is going to be our balloon and tails document.
Balloon entrails? That's disgusting.
I like to have the background a different color because that's what I like. How about a nice teal. That looks good. Okay. And so, if you just, this is our first balloon. If we just go ahead and copy and paste this over here, the next time that this occurs where there's, a little bit more space on the top or bottom, and if it's flipped, if there's more space or if there's more characters on the top than the bottom, then all we need to do is just go ahead and go in properties and flip that upside down, which, that wouldn't, never mind, that wouldn't make any sense. But if it were not already a symmetrical balloon, you could, that's an easy way to flip anything upside down. Yeah, so in the next
I'm
time...
guessing that comes into play more once you have a tail attached to it, too.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Now... Yeah, so the next time this kind of situation happens, you already have a balloon ready to go, and you don't have to spend that extra time doing the balloon all over again with the, adjusting and all that. So right
Work
here...
smart, not hard.
Yeah. So I think this looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I think we are ready to go on to...
I think it's missing a tail, but also we need a second balloon.
Oh,
in there.
yeah. So before we go with the tail, let's do that extra balloon, or that new text that's gonna go beside this. Okay. Oh, also, I just didn't realize there's some bold text over here that I didn't.
How do we do that?
No, it was the opposite.
Yeah.
The opposite. Good thing this font has a
bold.
bold.
That's nice. Yeah, we've run into having to manually bold stuff before.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god, manually bolding is the worst.
Or italicizing.
I don't know why.
We'll get into that with another live stream.
All right, so let's see. I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I think the dialogue is fantastic, personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wonder who wrote it. All right. So
If I had to guess, I'd say F. Scott Fitzgerald.
So what I like to do here, just so I don't have to do, when I'm doing this, text again.
That dialogue keeps getting better.
Yeah. So here, once it will kind of create the same shape that you had previous. So if you, when we first did the text box, it was, left center or left, justified.
Great show.
And, we had to change the font and everything. Thankfully, it will keep your preferences that you already chose.
It is bold, though.
It is bold.
To change that.
Regular. All right. Huh?
There we go.
All right. So
Well, what was bolded in this?
Oh, here. Fucked up and everything.
Strong language warning.
Strong language warning after the fact. And everything, right?
No, you had it right. I just wanted very thing to be bolded.
So, in this case, because everything is pretty, it's pretty thick. It's
Thank
pretty
you.
THICC.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to. I think it's a good guideline to follow to avoid splitting words up with a hyphen.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's just easier to read. It's simpler and less distracting. However, there are certain times that it makes more sense when you're kind of trading off the readability with the shape of the balloon and the uniformity of the rest of the whole thing.
Right.
And this is where we get into the frickin' intricacies of lettering that you have to think about 1,000 things at once.
Right.
So here in particular, because everything is basically 2 words, like where it's not like if I put a hyphen here and I tried to split up fucked. Like, it wouldn't make sense. But with everything...
Who's Ed?
It's still pretty much the same readability.
Sure. Yeah.
So let's try to make this a little bit more.
Oh,
Not ideal, but
there's no space in the fudged up.
not bad.
Yeah, I think that works.
I think I might want to do that little trick in here. Uh-oh.
Oh, the whole thing is already.
It is. This is the trick you have to.
So, well, this is something that we could potentially. I know we're skipping some steps because you usually your workflow is usually make all the text balloons of the certain format, then cut and paste in all the text, and then do all the balloons. Like you don't go through every step for a balloon and then move on to the next balloon, right? It's like you do the whole page, you do the first step for the whole page. So in that scenario, we'd usually dodge something like that because you'd be we're kind of skipping ahead to the good stuff here. But if you do want, this is something we figured out for the your first really big 300 plus page project was a workflow where it's you're doing like one step for the entire book or as many pages as you have first, and then you move on to the next step so that you don't have to constantly switch mindsets and think of what you have to do next and keep all that stuff in mind.
Exactly, yeah.
But we're breaking that rule.
Oh, another thing. Oh, another basic is that in comic books, when you're using an all caps font, only when you're using the character I, in the context of I'm, just the pronoun I, is the only instance where you want the crossbars on the top and bottom.
So yeah, and so this font automatically does it, right? Where if you look at it doesn't have the crossbars. So this is another reason to pay money for a font.
Yes. Yeah, I can't tell you how much time it would have saved me years ago if I had just invested in some comic book fonts. Okay. Here we go. Let's see if this balloon will adapt to this.
You're just copying and pasting there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that seems pretty good.
Pretty good. Think so. So this is something that I kind of struggle with because some letterers say that it is that you should be trying to butt up the balloon to the gutter as much as possible, which means that basically you bring the balloon up past the panel border and then cut it off at the top to leave more room for the art. Here it doesn't really make a difference because it's just
negative
space. But some of the time it is it looks better, it looks more professional and taking up less space. All right. So for this, I think in placement wise, because I don't know, it's a preference, but some you could put this over here or a little bit lower or a little bit lower. it's just kind of personal preference. I think that it looks better just visually to have, if you're merging two balloons, to have one of them slightly lower.
Offset.
Like offset. This looks a little strange to me.
that I feel like, because your instinct is to read left to right, and I feel like you get some don't dead open inside.
Yes,
issues there.
yeah, you're right. All right, so we're gonna keep them down here.
All right.
And actually, yeah, that'll be fine. So this is something that I too recently realized. So there's one way, or there's now two ways to merge balloons, so that you don't get that. Obviously, you don't want the border here of this balloon butting up against. You want it to be a smooth transition between these pieces of dialogue. So right now I am clicking on this balloon. I am holding down the shift button.
Okay.
And clicking the other one so that they're both selected. And if you go over here to Pathfinder, you can unite these. Voila. Now this is the way that I've been doing it up until about a month ago. But there's this trick that I recently learned. And so with this method, basically you can't get these two balloons separated again without redoing each of the balloons and redoing all the whole positioning and everything. So let's say you finish this page and you send it over to whoever is overseeing the book or the whatever. And then, you know, later on they or you decide that you want like different dialogue in there, or, you know, different sizing or different, you know, whatever. And this united balloon no longer applies. That sucks because you have to do the balloons all over again, and it's just that time is lost.
Right.
But now I'm going to undo that. There's this trick just in Illustrator, as far as I know.
Is just in Illustrator?
I know that that you can't do it in InDesign because I've tried, and I don't know. I don't know if you can do it in.
Hello, it's me.
Oh my god.
Just in Illustrator.
Go away, Justin. Nobody wants you here.
Oh. Drat.
So what I'm doing here, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna select both of them, but I'm gonna go to Window, and I'm gonna open the. Oh, actually, it's already opened. Yay!
Hi, it's me, Steven Manga Studio. Have you seen my Justin Illustrator friend?
So I'm gonna go over here to this,
okay,
this
I'll
little
leave.
menu button.
I know when I'm not wanted.
This little button over here, and I'm gonna use Make Compound Shape. Unfortunately, there's no keyboard shortcut for this, so you kind of have to do it manually each time, but it's worth it because it has the same effect. However, your balloons are still two balloons. So you can move them around and resize them, and nothing is gonna get screwed up. Now, as we continue and move toward using adding a tail, which is what usually screws it up for me when I use the unite, because when you add the tail, if you're using the unite method, then you're uniting all three of these, and so then you have to, if there's any, you know, big change, then you need to, you know, do the balloons and the tail and everything like, you know, from scratch.
So we essentially showed them how to do a thing, and then said, "Don't do this thing."
Well, I mean,
this is good because you obviously learned how to do it one way, and this is the whole thing.
Better. Like you're always going to be growing, you know, and learning new things, and I just. Yeah, it's really cool. This is, you know, I like whatever YouTube video, whatever new, you know, thing I can absorb lettering wise, I try to, because it leads to things like this. All right, so let's continue on and create a tail. So here, again, we want to have it, coming where it looks like it's coming from the middle of the balloon. So we're gonna have it around here, and we want it to be coming over in a little arc toward her mouth. All right. So we're gonna go to the pen tool, and it should have the same. Actually, right now, first I'm gonna do a Control S, and I'm gonna save because we haven't saved in a while.
There we go.
1 sec. Order time.
Do Justin Illustrator. Do. I'm best friends with Justin Illustrator. He's a cool dude. Do.
Justin Illustrator. Are you singing a song about yourself?
No, I'm John. I'm just good friends with Justin Illustrator. Me and Steven make a studio and Justin Illustrator go out for drinks.
All right.
We're in a quarantine gang. We promise to only meet with each other during quarantine.
All right. So when we first make this tail, it's gonna look a little wonky because it's not gonna be the right kind of angle.
Right.
But here, once we have that kind of, it's a 1, 2, 3 click, and that's all.
What tool did you use for that?
I use the pen tool.
Okay.
And that should save as long as the last thing that you selected has, as long as the balloon is the last thing that you selected, then this should adopt the same properties as it.
Right.
Now we're gonna go over to the oops. So if you click and hold down on the pen tool area, you can go down to the anchor point tool, and this is how I grab that anchor and give it a little curve.
Anchors away. Ooh, big boy.
Yep, and then that's it. So yeah, we're gonna take this one over here. Now this is a little thicker than I like. It really the thickness of where it protrudes from the balloon is another stylistic choice. So I like to have them a little bit thinner. That's just me. So I'm gonna go in.
It also depends on the project too, right?
Yeah, it does.
Because we did just skinny lines, not even tails for specs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that looks more natural to me, I think.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. And sometimes I like to just I'll do this this compound shape dealio again, and then kind of see what it looks like. I think that's pretty damn good.
That looks like a professional balloon, and if I opened up a comic, that would look like the things I would read.
Good. Move this over a little bit because I'm obsessed with
and
symmetry.
it's ruined.
Yeah, I'd say
Can we
that's
compare it to the?
pretty good.
Compare it to the Boy Roland one?
Yes, let's do it.
Let's see, image.
Yeah, 1 sec. Just gonna move it over so that we have more room. Here we go.
All right. So he did a little thing where he cut out behind her a bit.
No, I like that. I like that kind of that stylistic choice. I do that almost all the time in almost every project. At one point, I've done this cut out behind the subject. But it's not necessary, and it's I don't know. It's when it's not necessary, you just don't need to do it. And when there's enough space, I think it's something that you can use kind of sparingly because, again, you don't want to kind of distract too much from what's actually going on. And then I don't know, I feel like when you do it too much, it kind of melds the dialogue balloons with the scene. And yeah, it's what the dialogue is trying to do is to just express what's going on, right? Not be a focal point. of the actual visual. So anyway, that's my tangent.
So I think what we should do is maybe we just do this top row of panels, because I also want to see how you do like a connector tail between balloons for that first panel once we make that 2 balloons, and I also want to see how you approach the obviously David just put a really long pointy tail in that last panel, the third panel. I want to see how you would approach something like that, and I want to see you do a little hand-drawn voiceover in that panel, and I think we can call it from there.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so yeah, let's go back here. Let's see. So we want to do our stop. I'm alive. Stop. I'm alive. My heart.
That's
keeps
been stuck in my
beating.
head.
Okay. Are we allowed to sing copyright?
No, we just got infringed.
No.
We've been taken down. No
Okay.
one's watching.
Sign. All right. So let's. It's already bold. Huh.
Man, look at that. Look at that dialogue. So good. Who comes up with this
Oops.
stuff?
This also ended up on the balloon
Oh,
tab.
didn't know this was a cautionary stream. Now, did it also adopt the shrunkenness of the letters?
What?
Remember how the letters were more compacted when we made the...
Oh, oops. Did it?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
It did.
Aha.
Aha.
Don't need it there. Oh, big difference.
Big difference. Huge.
Whew.
Oh my god. Dodge that bullet. Alright, so, so do you mean, okay, yeah, so that's the thing, I'm gonna go back to this, and, so it's not, you are intending for these to be totally separate balloons that are
Yeah,
connected with
just like the panel after.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying that in that there are 2 separate balloons, but I would say just to have a longer beat on the stop, have it be separated and joined by a tail between the 2 balloons.
Yeah, I totally agree in this instance. So, yeah, so if we had, if these 2 balloons were separated and connected with another tail, that would, like, you'd naturally, when you're reading it, it would indicate that there had been a little kind of more of a pause between the 2 phrases, right?
This one's harder to sing to.
I didn't anticipate needing so much water. You're gonna have to get me water.
Welcome to my world. Here, I'm gonna give you this because it's quieter.
Oh, okay. So
But
here
there's
we
not
go.
there's not too much left of this stream.
Now I like for single line balloons, I like to, I'm gonna copy and paste this one again because I like to have some whoops, we don't want that nut layer. I like to have some what did you call it before? Oblongness to my balloons, as opposed to something like this. See, I think that looks a lot better than that.
Yeah, just because you get more even spacing around the edges and stuff.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Now let's maybe. A little bit.
Oop, I just hit the point where stop doesn't look like a word to me anymore. This is something that I struggle with constantly when it comes to lettering. Its stuff just stops looking like words.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's so weird. Who put an S before that top?
Stop.
Well, no, it's not that.
Stop.
Oh boy.
Now I'm trying to think. I'm like, it makes sense, I guess, to just have these two over here.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy person would put the stop up here
Yeah.
between the carnage and the I'm alive. But it's a little too. I think I would like to do that, but it's a little too much space between the two.
Also, where do you put the tails and stuff? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was a nice thought. I'm gonna
Experimentation
copy
is
and
welcome.
paste this. Oh, this is another thing. So here I have, my spacing that I've decided is good for single line balloons. Now, if I copy and paste this onto my, now I should have saved as, or I should have saved this as well, but I won't for now. Now, if I copy and paste this, now we have the perfect template for the next time we have a single line balloon again.
So I hate periods because they always it always feels like it should be more to one side than it actually should be. So here's something that we didn't really talk about is eye line, because lettering can often have people dictate the way in which they're looking around a page, and you want them to have that sort of fluidity of eye line. So are you thinking for this one, I'm going to take over the mouse for a second, but should it be like you see this first and then it goes up and leads you to that? Like, should that be our eye line for this? So you can see that, and then we see stop, I'm alive, and then we see both of them, and then it as we're traveling up to the next page, because that is like, you want that zigzag motion for panels like this sort of 9-panel grid like layout.
Yes. So I'm reassessing this now. What if we? Oh my
what have you
god!
done?
What happened? Oh, I pressed Windows instead of Control.
Don't do that! Don't do that! Don't do that! That was a nightmare.
Now, what do you think about that?
I like it.
I like this more than the single line.
Yeah, let's do it.
I've kind of fallen in love with oblong, as you say.
How you say oblong?
As in, I've fallen in love with making my balloons as square as possible, as opposed to, or as more, as square as possible, more so than with, lots of width.
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 I hate that. It's width. I feel like that I'm alive needs to be up a little bit, like the words, the letters need to be up in the balloon a little bit. Yeah.
Now I'm like, see, this is the thing I'm getting so.
We're not. No, let's not. Let's not.
Okay.
Let's
Okay.
not.
Okay. I'm not.
Fine. That's fine. So how do we connect them?
Alright.
And how do we make it look like she's not tucking out of her butt?
So yes, right here we do not want to put our tail to the butt.
Our tail between her legs.
Yeah. So here, and this is also what's good about this here, is that about the compound shape is that, see, I forgot to grab this tail and copy and paste it into my balloons and tails document, but because it's not already united,
Right.
I can just take it and copy and paste it. Now, convention would tell you that all of your balloon tails should be the same width coming out of the balloon. I have recently become of a different mind that the depth of basically what kind of depth of shot you have in each panel can, it makes sense to do a thinner
So
or
since
larger.
this is a wider shot.
Yeah, since this is a wider shot, I like to have a little bit thinner. And not to mention, because these are like much smaller balloons with less characters, a thicker tail, I think, is going to look a little strange.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oops.
Perfect.
Let's go back to here. And if you go back to the anchor point tool here, and you just click these anchors, it goes right back. So you can give it just a regular. So yeah, here I think it's a little bit thick. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of sink it more into the balloon itself
I see.
to get that kind of.
Seems like a good way to make sure you're coming from the center too.
And let's see. So the good thing about this here, where's my, stop. Where'd my Pathfinder go? Where'd it go? Where'd Pathfinder go?
Did you lose it in the great pressing the Windows button accident of 2020?
Oh, I just turned it off. It was there.
Okay.
My bad. Okay. So this is acceptable, but it's a little angular for my liking. So what I like to do here is take this guy and do a little bit of a curve only on the inside edge here. It gives it just a little bit of a nice curve. So I'll do a teeny bit more. And it can look kind of, I don't know, I like the look of it.
Same.
Now let's do the connector here.
So it's just pen tool again, like you were making a tail.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Pen tool again. And again, we want to kind of make it look like it's coming from
Center.
the center. And it's not, this isn't always possible, but it's always, good guideline to try and stick with.
So I see it's a little asymmetrical. Do you usually go for like thicker on one end?
Yes.
Is it thicker from the first balloon, generally?
Thicker from the first balloon, yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
So you're kind of...
And then you did the same combiney thing that you did before?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I'm gonna go back to anchor point just to give this a little bit of a curve. A little. Not much. Oops. Now this is... Now the angle starts to change once you start messing with the curve of the tails. So now it kind of looks like it's no longer going into the middle of this balloon. It's kind of going into the sides here. That's why it looks a little wonky. So I think I'll just kind of move it back to what it was and then just do the teeniest amount of curve.
Like that.
It still looks a little weird. So maybe... Sorry, y'all. There we go.
Cool.
I'm still not totally happy with it, but you know, such is the life of a perfectionist. Yes.
Of how to do it. All right, so we got one more dialogue thing and VO.
Okay. You're seriously amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think the dialogue is
I was
quite
talking
good
to
too.
Justin.
Oh. I guess he's not talking to you right now.
Darn, I keep doing it.
You're used to that workflow.
Mm-hmm.
What was okay. Yeah, the bold.
Yep, the bold. Now I want to check out, what do you think about, is this bold italic too much? 'Cause I prefer to do a bold italic rather than just a bold. I think it looks a little more, it's kind of brings across that emphasis
Sure.
more.
You do you.
Yeah.
Remember first panel too. There's some bold. Ba, ba, ba.
Yeah, I like that. Alright, I'm gonna save. Control S. Or Command. If you are macularly inclined.
Hey, it's me, Mac. Eularily inclined. I got the same voice as Steven Manga Studio. We're twins. Okay, bye. We really gotta lock our front door.
So this one is actually even more square of a... I might want to do our little trick here. I'm gonna play around with the anchors a little bit more. Let's see how that looks.
If anyone in the chat has any general questions, feel free to hit us up. Also, if there's any problems with the audio, as always, I've been tinkering with the levels here. But if that wonderful music isn't loud enough, or is too loud, or is not properly drowning out our terrible voices, then please.
Speak for yourself, Justin.
Again, I'm just John. I don't know why you're... I've become Justin.
I married Justin.
See this. There's so much blank space in this.
Yes, so this is the perils of finalizing art without having a vague idea of where the dialogue is gonna go and the word balloons are gonna fit.
This chat says your voice is lovely.
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I actually always, that's the one thing that I do not demand much of my artists. I do not, have a lot of, I'm insanely open to collaborations, but one thing that I always suggest at the beginning of every script is to just draw in rough letters for themselves just to make sure everything fits, because it is such a pain to have to go back and rework things afterwards. Yeah. So that's a top-notch writer trick.
I was gonna say that having more space is better than having having not enough space, but it's kind of both crappy, because it you know.
I mean, there's, if you're looking at the script, you can see that there's half as much dialogue on this page, except there is double the negative space. So we could size up. We do not like change. Oh wait, do you mean the text or the art?
No, the text. We could make the amazing large, but then it would kind of throw off.
It seems like she's screaming a bit. When she has a very sort of subtle face.
Subtle face.
That's what they call me.
Alright, so let's go back to the original here. So what we have is, and I think that's maybe what Dave was going for, because he realized that there was so much negative space that he tried to make the balloon larger. Doesn't really work, unfortunately, with the uniformity and, being less distracting. But I think he, what we are gonna have to do anyway is to make a longer tail as well, so he kind of had the right instinct there.
I like that. Yeah, I like that it's centered. I like that he centered the balloon. I think that gives it a bit more gravity.
Yeah. This is what. Yeah, I like.
The centerpiece.
I think this is what I'm gonna stick with here. All right, so let's grab this. And so again here, this is the selection tool. If you click on something that's already a compound shape, it's going to click all of it. If you go on the direct selection tool, you'll be able to click select any part of it individually. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is reposition this. We're going to want...
Oh, I hate looking at that.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's like it broke its leg.
And we're going to want to have this a little bit here. Now let's see what this looks like when it's... Not bad.
Yep.
Let's see what it looks like united or compounded. Yeah, pretty good. I might want to move it this way a teeny bit. So
I'm
the
digging it.
yeah, the thing here now is we're gonna have to add our voiceover. I like what Dave's done here with the background. I think because it kind of gives this the kind of spray paint quality. Gives it a little bit of like a dreamy kind of in the head feel. Unfortunately, Illustrator does not have a brush that is anything close to spray paint.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we're working with a solid background here.
yeah,
we're
with the
not
solid
doing the
background,
rest
we
of
don't
it,
really
we-
need to do. Yeah,
I'd say we just
just go ahead
write
and
it out.
write it in.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have our Wacom tablet here. Why don't we put up a yeah, it kind of looks like that. A little tablet here that we've
Yeah, we have probably the $100 one.
this one right here.
Yep.
So it looks like that, and you just kind of draw on it, and then it shows up on the screen. It's fun. Okay, so
It's not. It obviously makes lettering a bit easier for specific things if you're doing anything by hand, but it is by no means a necessary tool. But it is.
yeah.
It is a convenient one if you have it.
So usually for voiceover or any sort of non-speaking dialogue, which is I guess an oxymoron, but usually it ends up being exactly like this, where it's just a straight line.
Yeah.
No kind of it's not fitting into a balloon, so you don't need to do much with it. But the thing is here, I might want to switch it or change up and make it into 2 lines a little bit, just so that it's not, because if we go like this, I'm gonna go to the brush area. If we go like this and we're like, hello, then there's a chance that the reader, even though it is significantly below the balloon here, that the reader might read this first because it is on the left.
I see.
So I don't really want it to go. I don't want this dialogue to go too far to the left of this panel border. So let's see. And something I didn't mention is, it's kind of second nature to me now, but when you're trying to figure out what size of font you want to use, so that it's, not too big or too small, what I did initially is to just find a page from a comic that I really liked. Just find a page online and kind of overlay it, just like place it. You can just go file, place, into the file, place it on top of your comic page, kind of like resize it so that they're the same, and then change the opacity of the finished comic page that you just placed at 50 or 30%, and kind of you can use the font size that's already on that page to basically use it as a guide for your own. And it's so simple, but it's it's hard to think of these things when you're in the thick of it. Okay, so I'm gonna do so this brush is a little too markery. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we went for like a pencil type.
So we can do just a
Like that.
like a pen.
Yeah.
So I think that even though it's supposed to be handwritten, I still want to keep it kind of in a what do you call it?
Lamer.
When you're writing on a line. Oh my god, I'm losing my mind. When you're writing
Uniform.
on Yes, but uniform when it comes to
Does it matter?
the level of where the letters are sitting. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open and show the grid. So there's a little, bit of a guide here.
Jacked into the grid.
So
I love anyone that's watched any of my editing videos knows that I love having a grid up at all times to keep stuff straight.
All right, so you're not one of the greats.
Okay, well, I'm sure.
I'm sorry. You're just not.
I thought we were doing a cool thing. Doot. Haley's taking a drink, and I'm singing, and look at that dialogue. It's so good.
You're not one of the greats. Okay.
Stop
it. Just for my own kind of like, oops.
By the way, are we on the right layer? What layer are you doing? Are you doing it on text?
I'll just continue doing it on text. I'm gonna just paste it into here just so that I have something to look at. So, what do you think? You want to do 3, or shall we try for 2? That could go a little... Yeah, so maybe we'll try for like this.
Sure.
Oops, yeah, we...
Which, by the way, that's a cool thing you can do. Lowercase y, huh?
Oh my god.
Is that what we're doing? you can macro keys to the
Actually, I'm gonna
tablet, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
What did you do there?
I just went into preferences and guides and grid, and I wanted to have more of more lines. So I did subdivisions 2 instead of 1. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Maybe a little too close. I don't know. It's tough because this handwritten stuff is a little. It doesn't follow the same conventions.
Mm-hmm.
But let's turn off that guide or the grid. Let's see.
Now I'm thinking we might want to do a larger font for it.
Larger?
And I'm fine with the. Well, it kind of looks like you're not of the greats. But yeah, I like that was one thing I liked with David's was that he did the handwritten stuff, and yeah, it was a bit larger for the handwritten bits, which made it easier to read because it's a bit scratchier. It doesn't have to be as uniform and stuff, opposed to that very concise and clear to read even when it's small font that we're using for the dialogue.
Right. So I mean, do you want me to change this? Do you think I should change the style of the writing?
No, I think it should just be larger.
Okay. Let's try again.
All right.
Fly in my face. Fruit, fly in my face.
Chat says that this is with the jazz and the people popping in and out. It's very Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Ooh.
And it's the goal. That's the dream. I'm liking this.
Not bad. I
Can we
would like
ditch
to.
the text to the side that you're not one of
Yes.
the.
Now this would obviously make more sense when, if we'd seen the previous
Pages.
pages where there's more voiceover and you already know that that's voiceover.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I like it.
I might want to. I would maybe want to like.
Move it up and to the left a bit.
Yes.
Yeah, same.
And also,
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, now I'm just fooling around, but I'm like, no, not 18. All right. What do we think?
I'd say we just lettered some stuff. I think it looks pretty cool.
I agree. Here we are.
Look at that. So that is just the basics.
Oh yeah.
Just barely top of the iceberg here. But yeah, I'm liking it. I think it looks good. I think we learned some shortcuts. We got some general ideas. I'm sure someone watching this could figure out how to do at least a basic run. Like you're probably well enough equipped to letter your own thing if you want to do a little fun project on your own.
Yeah. And here I have goodbye Wacom tablets. Yeah, so creatorresource.com has all these links for letterers. A lot of this stuff is just essential for, self-teaching lettering. Jim Campbell is a letterer who has his own blog, and he's had a blog for years and years and years, and he has these lettering in Adobe Illustrator. This was the first thing that I ever read, and it totally got me started. There's, again, Blambot has those lettering tips here, and font-wise, there's so many free fonts on Font Squirrel, 1001 Free Fonts, dafont.com. All of these I've used to find fonts. There's lots of just free for either personal or independent commercial use. And yeah, man.
Looks good. Yeah, we'll come back at some point. We'll do maybe some sound effects. Maybe we'll switch to another one of. Maybe we'll go back to Neon Noir. Do a sound effect. I don't know if there are sound effects in Neon Noir, but yeah.
Oh, how do I? Someone is asking, how do you advertise your skills to get jobs? Basically, I have. It's been mostly on Twitter. I recently actually created a website for myself, which is nice. But yeah, mostly it's been through Twitter. But actually, I own HaleyRoseLion.com, not Haley Reinhardt. That's not me. But yeah, this is my website.
So all you have to do is buy the domain for HaleyRoseLion.com, and you'll get gigs. So yeah, how did it was the Twitter. We got suffragettes there. Patreon exclusive comics still, if you want to read that. That was all lettered by Haley. Specs. But but yeah, it was what the Visible Women is the one that has gotten you a few gigs. If you're a female comic creator on Twitter is a nice one, but they have just straight up hashtag portfolio day. Keep an eye out for those, and people keep an eye out. And what, the Reddit, right?
Yes, yeah, Reddit too. Comic Book Collabs, the subreddit. Yeah, I've met some great people on there, done some gigs for people. Yeah, and so right now, I'm lettering an ongoing webcomic called Caballeras. This is a little bit of it, and you can find that.
Look at those oblongs.
Yeah, those oblongs. And yeah, so that's on Webtoon. Just search Caballeras. That's the spelling, right here. It's awesome, and I really like it. It's a collab with a writer artist named Jeff Class. He's a great dude. And I also have a couple of short stories coming out in a anthology called Insider Art, benefiting female comic book retailers. That'll be out, I think, later this month. Nice. If not, the summer. And then another book.
Have they announced that yet?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, and then I have another secret project that I've been working on.
That's what I was asking about. If they announced that.
Oh no, not that. No. Yeah, and then so I have like some stuff upcoming, and it's really exciting.
Yay! All right, you know what? We're gonna do something a little special. Let's go back to our cool thing, and we're going to just thank some patrons, which we don't always do with the live streams, but you know what? I'm feeling generous. So let's give a nice shout out to Sandy Swagger. You're the greatest. TC Arkenberg. You're tied for the greatest. That's last but never least. We have to go back. Julia Rimley, always the best. One of the best. That's last but never least. I'm skipping, Kira.
Right. Sorry.
Jeez, do you not watch the $5 stuff that you have no access to? Polyphonic, always the best. Listen to us on Horns and Wings. High Top Films is just the most prolific and brilliant person. Alexis B, killing it. I'll let you. What's Gabrielle's catchphrase?
Gabrielle, more like Gabriella. Cute.
Okay, it seems more. Let's say. I'm gonna go ahead and say there's a clause about not hitting on our patrons. Last but never least. Well, actually, no. Wait, hold on. First, Cool Channel Films. We've been given the $25 shout outs to. Cool Channel Films. Go check out Cool Channel Films on YouTube. They're rad. They're fantastic. And last but never least, Kira, you get to listen to some unlistenable audio there. Kira Greenfield is also your last name. Thank you so much. All the $10 patrons who I would put their names up on the screen right now, but it would betray their information. Their private information.
Let's just give out their addresses.
Thank you all so much for watching.
Thank you so much.
It's fun, and let's make the other music quiet, and let's bring back that theme song. And goodbye. Thank you for watching.
Thank you. We love you.